call the roll to determine a quorum.
Alderperson Weigel,
Here.
Barzak,
Excused.
Chaplesky,
Also excused.
Haas,
Here.
Lysick,
Here.
May,
Here.
Probst, Reinke, Rote,
Here.
Vitale,
Also excused.
7 present, 3 excused.
We have a quorum. Our pledge this evening will be led by Alderman Weigel. Please rise and join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have 4 items before us for public hearing this evening. I'm going to ask our clerk to read public hearing number 1.
A hearing on the special use permit for a proposed restaurant and gastro pub to be located within the existing mixed-use building located at 5835 West National Avenue.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A gastro pub is technically just a pub that tries to build themselves as a very high-end, high-quality food. That's the kind of thing that we'd love to have in the city of West Allis. And this particular public hearing is for the purpose of granting a special use to allow that kind of establishment operate in this facility, which is right across the street from the well-known Kegel's restaurant. Previously, it was a gold for sale or a vape shop, so the uses that were being proposed for now are quite exciting and quite different. Located on 5835 West Greenfield Avenue, they're proposed to have about 48 seating capacity in the facility. If you go to look up gastro pubs, in the directory, you find there's about 5. There's a plethora of them within the Milwaukee metro area, and it's fast becoming a shtick that a lot of restaurants are trying to achieve, and we certainly hope this one does. They're going to have about 25 sit-down or 28 tables and about 13 at the bar. The facility has some minor issues that are going to be addressed. The most important one is going to be the garbage, where that's going to be at and be located, and that's still being negotiated as we speak, primarily because the site is totally developed, and the part of the upstairs has 2 apartments and the downstairs has 1 apartment. The restaurant is going to be in the front, and so currently the garages are fully leased, so there's a legal obligation to have to deal with. And so we're going to be monitoring that situation and trying to figure out what's the best way to deal with their dumpster issue. Today, it's going to be daily service. That's one of the issues that we're going to hopefully mitigate it. There's some other things with the building that the Plan Commission has requested. That's these garage doors need to be repaired, which they're going to be repaired. There's some painting that needs to be done on this particular wall. And, the door that's located here there's a new door going to be put in with glass so that it has a better entrance feature. The Plan Commission reviewed this proposal on June 28th, is recommending approval, and we've received no objections to date. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any comments or questions from the members of the Common Council?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Weigel?
So this is just a preliminary step in this, so we're not approving the whole thing.
We're going to be asking that you approve the things so they can become operational. However, part of the approval process is a soft approval of the dumpster issue, which we think is the most outstanding issue, and then we can eventually have the authority to order them to take the dumpster inside the garage.
Well, because I have my regular questions. So the operator of the business is buying the building?
The operator of the business owns the building and has owned the building, has had a long history of operating in the restaurant business. They have 3 other partners, and each of them has been involved extensively somewhere in the restaurant and beverage industry.
That would have been my other question. They know what they're getting into. It's not just some startup. They're familiar with the realities of the business.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Weigel. Any other comments or questions from the members of the council? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the members of our audience? Seeing none, we will close our first public hearing. I will ask our clerk to read public hearing number 2.
A hearing on the special use permit for Jane's Simply Delicious Popcorn, a proposed limited food production use to be located within a portion of the Southtown Shopping Center located at 2942 South 108th Street.
Thank you. Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jane's Simply Delicious Popcorn, because it serves popcorn and makes popcorn, it's a special use as opposed to a traditional retail store, similar to the operation that was previously in the site, which was the Radio Shack, the former Radio Shack location. But because it is a serves food, it requires a special use, and that's the purpose of this hearing tonight. The proposed hours of operation are as noted on the screen, 8 a.m. to 9 during the week, 9 to 8 on Saturday, and 10 to 5 on Sunday. There will also be about 1,200 square feet of retail space on the western end and about 2,200 square feet for their operations in the back end of the property. Again, because this is a special use, we look at the entire site and we'll be requiring some additional filling in of the mulch in this particular area. Some of the blocks, as you can see here, for car parking, car curbs have been knocked around, and they're going to be required to be fixed, which, by the way, is also why we do not allow them on adjacent to city right-of-way. And also the rear fencing will be repaired. The Plan Commission has reviewed this proposal, has recommended approval, and we have received no objections to date. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any comments or questions from the Common Council? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from our audience? Okay, seeing none, we will close public hearing number 2, and I will ask our clerk to read public hearing number 3.
A hearing on the special use permit for Tall Guy and a Grill, a proposed catering business to be located within a portion of the multi-tenant building at 6733 through 6735 West Lincoln Avenue.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On 68th and Lincoln, or 67th and Lincoln, this building has been used for a lot of various entities, from a Thai restaurant to law firms to whatever. It's a nice commercial area, and we're glad to see it's going to be reoccupied. The building is about 2,600 square feet, and they'll be using most of that for their catering operations, and a small portion will be used for meeting and greeting the public. And it's primarily you have to call in and make an appointment before you can be there. 16 stalls would typically be required, but this is a historically urban neighborhood, like the neighborhoods of the western suburbs trying to recreate. One of the problems is always parking, but we've successfully dealt with that in the past. Tall Guy and a Grill would have just a small tasting room and a small reception area, and the rest of the area is going to be for their operations. So there probably won't see a lot of people going in and out, because it's just going to be more appointment only based, and then obviously for their catering operations. The Plan Commission has reviewed this proposal and has recommended approval, and if you have any additional questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any comments or questions from the council? Seeing none, are there any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, we will close our third public hearing, and we will move on to our fourth public hearing.
A hearing on the special use permit for Zignego Ready Mix Incorporated, an existing ready-mix concrete business, to amend the terms of their existing special use permit for the overall premise and to make various site changes on properties located at 4 South Curtis Road, 5 South Curtis Road, 521 South Curtis Road, 551 South Curtis Road, and 571 South Curtis Road.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This ready-mix processing has been in the city for several decades, and it's certainly caused some issues throughout the years, and we hope we're getting closer and closer to try to resolve a lot of those. One of the bigger issues is the crushing operation, and particularly at night, and we'll be talking about how we're going to be able to deal with that. A neighborhood meeting was held, and this is the boundary area where all the residents were and businesses were notified of the meeting that was held at Lane School. The Zignego operation, because of the crushing operations, is so noisy. One of the outcomes of this process was to provide for an operation of special use that would prohibit crushing at night. And I think this would certainly help a lot of the neighbors in that neighborhood to be able to sleep more quietly and pleasantly. The area is zoned M1, but it still requires a special use because of the nature of the operation. The process is going to offer 2 more storage buildings, but they'll be such of a size and location that they will not be visible from off-site. There'll also be an extension of the sound wall, which I'll show in a minute here. And then another bigger issue is that there are about 5 different parcels within that. Some have a special use and some don't, and now we're going to get them all corralled into one major special use. As I mentioned, the crushing operations would no longer be at night, and they have to end at 10 p.m. or at 2 p.m. on Saturday. The concrete operations, their normal hours of operation are 6 to 10 and 6 to 2 during the weekend on Saturday. That does not prohibit them from bringing out concrete at all hours of the night, particularly if DOT is doing a road project and they're pouring roads at night. They need the concrete, but the concrete doesn't require doesn't create the noise that the crushing operation. So we think we're attacking the most prevalent problems. 56 parking spaces will be required as this normal operation, and 56 parking spaces are provided for. The 2 buildings that I mentioned here is Curtis Road, and then the north being up there. It would be in these 2 locations, and they're 30 by 60 or 30 by 50, so they're not going to be visible at all from outside the wall. And then also there's additional screening wall on the southern portion of the property. This is a rendering of what the buildings would look like, metal buildings but with a brick base. The special uses that we had until 1997 is what we've been operating on, and this is more of an outline of what they are. And we've made hopefully some additional and very creative approaches to solving some of the problems that they have there by making them all part of the CSM, providing more parking, limiting the hours of operation, particularly for the crushing operations, and then also limiting and managing the soil storage and material storage on the site. And then just as importantly, the paving and dust control, which has been a big issue with the neighborhood. We're requiring more mitigation measures to maintain a wet atmosphere over the crushed operation, and also a better cleanup process of the roads. I think they're also buying a road. They have a sweeper, and now they're also going to be buying a road vacuum to be able to keep that road cleaner. And then also, we want to help mitigate some of the traffic issues within the neighborhood, particularly the volume of trucks that are diverted down Theo Trekker. And if we do some mitigation measures on the exiting, we might be able to help accommodate that by closing off one of the driveways, and then the major one, when the trucks come through, opening that up to allow them to take a left turn. And this left turn out then would allow them to make right turns off of Blue Mound Road and right turn onto the major roadways to get onto the freeway. And that would be easier then for them to be go down Theo Trekker, stop at the light, and then wait to be able to cross at the appropriate time. So we can divert some of the traffic. We don't know how much yet, but right-hand turns are a whole lot easier than left-hand turns. And if we can get them in and out quicker, it'll certainly be easier. There'll also be some additional landscaping on the site, particularly along Curtis Road, to help green up the site and lighten up the site as best we can. This is one of the parking or roadways I was talking about that we're going to be able to close off. And then this area here, we're going to allow them to remove 2 trees or relocate 2 trees at a light post so that they can open up that area for a curb cut to allow that to be able to make easy left-hand turns to divert traffic off of Theo Trucker. We had a neighborhood meeting on June 15th at Lane Elementary. We're going to hold this public hearing today. No action will be taken yet this evening. We've got some more issues that we still need to address, and particularly here any comments that we have. We've received 1 letter of concern to date, and the Plan Commission reviewed this project on July 26th and recommended approval. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the members of the Common Council?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman May.
I just want to comment that we did hold a meeting, as you had mentioned, and the top concerns, as they continually be, were with noise, dust, and hours of operations. We had about 20 residents at this meeting. We had about 3 business owners nearby, and we had probably 10 representatives of Zignego there as well, talking about the issues. It seemed coming out of that meeting, anyway, that most people agree with what we're doing to help mitigate the noise with eliminating the crushing at night. I would say one of the top concerns remaining is with that dust issue and the dust control. And I know several residents are here tonight to discuss that, so I'll leave that to them. We are recommending this be held tonight, as you had mentioned also, so we can incorporate citizen comments when those citizens come up. If you do have any proposed solutions, we'd love to hear them. The attorney, city attorney's office began a preliminary review of the language and found a number of things that they want cleaned up and tightened up as well, so we can be a little bit more, we can enforce stronger the special use permit. Plan Commission review happens at the end of this month, and of course, bringing this all together, Alderman Barzak and myself are going to want an opportunity to see this again before it comes back to council. So even though this is being held tonight, citizen input is welcome. Feel free to speak tonight or email or call myself or Alderman Barzak, and we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
Mayor Devine.
Alderperson Probst.
John, the only concern I have, besides the ones that Alderman May has already brought forward, as having been mentioned by the people at the meeting, would be the 7 a.m. start time on Saturday morning for the crushing operation. That just seems awfully early on a Saturday morning when people have worked all week long. I'm just thinking about the neighbors around there, and currently, people that bought their homes that live in that impacted area bought a home near a business that didn't do this on the weekends. And now they're looking at changing the rules after people have already lived there. I wouldn't be okay with that. If I was a resident, I would be going, I mean, I work until 3 o'clock in the morning on Fridays. I get home at 3 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays. Somebody starts crushing in the morning at 7 a.m. I don't think that's going to be a pretty picture for some of the residents. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine.
Person Reinke.
John, basically they're asking to build 2 storage units, 2 storage buildings. How many storage buildings do they have on site right now?
They're not so much storage buildings on site, they're operational buildings, like their office and their cement making operation and those types of buildings that they use for that. But this one of them is going to store their water equipment to help keep the site down, and the other one is just additional storage. They're not very large buildings, but we try to keep as much inside as possible.
And what would they use the buildings to store?
Just the watering operations, and then just general operations.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the council? Anyone in the audience have comments or questions? If you haven't been here before, please give us your name and address for our official record. And
Yes, I'm Shannon Mission, 717 South 120th Street, zip code 53214. I live on the edge of this property, If you go directly across the ballpark and you go across where the parking lot is for the ballpark, my house is the second one across the street from where the trail starts. I support Zignego in their business. If you look at my driveway, it was actually poured by Zignego. What I don't support is my 4 children and the other children in the neighborhood being kept awake until 10 o'clock at night by this pounding. 10 o'clock is, I think, even unreasonable. I think 9 o'clock would be a more reasonable time for these kids that we need to get to school at 7 o'clock in the morning to actually get full night of sleep, not go to sleep for an hour or two and then get woken up by the pounding in the middle of the night. The other big concern I have is the dust. I'm concerned that our health is being put at risk because of the dollars that they want to make with this company. I understand that they have a business they want to run, but my health, my children's health, and the health of the people of my neighborhood shouldn't be put at risk because of this. I go out to my car in the morning and have a layer of fine sand and dust on my car from these crushing operations and the winds blowing them to my house. I have it stuck on my windows from this crushing operation where you can see there is no fence, there's nothing right there. It blows right over those trees, right into my backyard, right onto my windows, right into my children's windows. I cannot keep my windows open at night because they will be breathing this in. So please, I do support them as a business, but this needs to be a workable solution where us people in the neighborhood can open up our windows and go outside and breathe and not worried about having health issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else in the audience have comments or questions on this item?
I'm Alex Schultz, 726 South 119th Street. And like Shannon, I have concerns about how Zignego has been basically as a neighbor. I have some concerns about the existing special permit and how that has been enacted. Currently, as per the slide, there was a 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Work schedule with, on occasion, night schedule, night crushing operations, night production operations. I understand certainly that it's a lot safer for road crews to work at night when there's less traffic, and it makes sense to have that availability for them. But the point is that they have continued that night operations fairly frequently. And only until very recently, when enough neighbors were making enough complaints that, hey, this noise is getting out of control. I mean, my kids, my 2 kids, when they were babies, we would just get them asleep, and then the crushing would wake them up again, which didn't fly very well with us. But what I wanted to try to figure out is how the new changes that we're looking to implement with this company, with the operating hours and everything, how that's going to resolve that issue of the occasional night operations in production. As it is, every once in a while there will still be loud bangs coming from the Zignego in early or morning hours. Presumably, it actually sounds kind of like a dump truck slamming that tailgate. When the dump truck bed comes down and the tailgate slams shut, and loud bangs like that, or banging on the side of a concrete truck to loosen material that's still in the drum, or whatever they're doing. But it's enough to really jar you awake if you're anywhere close to the property. The dust issue, it is a big issue. I mean, it's on, like Shannon said, it's on our houses, it's in our cars, it's, our kids are walking through it, playing in it, and it's concerning because there are a lot of health problems that could come because of that. I'm curious to find out more information, and regrettably, I was not able to attend the previous neighborhood meeting regarding the permit, what they plan to do. I was working. But the fence, the proposed fence or dust abatement, whatever it's supposed to be, I'm presuming that it's supposed to be to the right of the existing tower there. And it also, to my mind, creates an eyesore and what otherwise is a beautiful park. So, I don't know if I'm running out of time or anything, but those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who has comments or questions from the audience?
Hi, Amanda Cleveland, 1329 South 76th Street. I lived across the street from the school for 21 years. I breathed it in. I had really bad asthma problems where I had to be hospitalized. And ever since I moved about a year and a half ago, I haven't even had an asthma attack. So that dust comes in. It filters through your house. That is my main concern. That's all.
Thank you. Does anybody else have comments or questions on public hearing number 4? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if
Mr.
I could
Stevel?
suggest that people that are here that want to talk a little bit more about that, we've got owners of the company here, our staff will be here, we can meet right after the public hearings convene, and you can get any more questions that you'd like to have answered.
Thank you. With that, we will close public hearing number 4, and we will go to page 2 on our agendas. Item E is citizen participation. That is an opportunity for residents to address the council on any matters of interest to them. We do ask that you keep your comments to approximately 5 minutes, and we aim to keep this portion of our agenda to 30 minutes. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the council and I under citizen participation this evening? Okay. Seeing none, we will move to item F, which is our announcement of standing committees. Those will be meeting during recess. The room numbers are listed on your agendas on page 2. Item G would be the mayor's report. I don't really have a report this evening, but I do want to just wish happy birthday. Today is Irwin Long Day in the city of West Allis. Irwin turned 100. He is a World War II veteran who lives over at Heritage Senior Living Center on 79th and National. He was in the occupation force that entered Nagasaki in World War II. And last week, I was able to celebrate a 101st birthday with Chester Bajasek, who's living over at Meadowmere. I got to spend his 100th with him last year and was very happy to be invited back for his 101st. That was about last Wednesday, I believe. So happy birthday to those two gentlemen. And no other comments from the mayor's report. Do we have any reports from the alderpersons this evening?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman May?
I'd just like to commend the police department, fire department, public works department, the US DOT, the Wisconsin DOT, and UP Rail. That derailment cleanup that took place was pretty impressive, how quickly they got that cleaned up and the roadway back open. It's my hope we can see the UP Rail be as responsive to our other issues in the future. I also want to let you know, I was talking to the police chief beforehand as well. There have been a number of thefts from vehicles. People leave their vehicles unlocked at night, and they have things as simple as phone chargers stolen. So just a reminder, please do the best to protect your property. Lock your doors, hide the things inside your vehicles so people don't break in and take them. That's it. Thanks, Mayor.
Any other reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine,
Alderperson Reinke?
I just want to give a quick report on July 4th.
Yep.
July 4th event was well attended. We were very pleased. We tried a different venue. Eric Diamond, his name was, and he did a fantastic job. His performance was well received and much applause. The fireworks were outstanding. I have to thank Robert Barwick because he was very instrumental in making them from this one company just an outstanding grandiose celebration. We received many positive comments about our celebration, and I want to thank all who participated and also those who contributed to our special celebration this year. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick?
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council regular meeting of June 20th, 2017.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item J on your agenda, Items not referred to committee, I'll ask for a motion to place item 6 on file.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Haas,
Second.
second by Alderman Weigel. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Standing committee reports, we have none.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick,
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
there's a motion with a second by Alderperson Reinke. All in favor? All opposed? We are in recess.